Hello, everybody. We are back. It's Truth or Skepticism. It feels like it's been a while, Mr. Radigan.
Well, I mean, that the holidays, there's travel. I've traveled from Italy. I went from Lake Placid to Italy to New York to California in the last 10 days. And so I'm personally confused because I'm used to having you in the afternoon or evening as a point of discussion. I really don't welcome a discussion with you when I wake up in the morning, truth be told. So this is an adjustment for me.
Yeah, for some reason, I don't feel sorry for you. Neither does anybody who's listening. So
you're more of an afternoon discussion. You know, this is like a little bit rude. I also I read recently in the press that there was some scandal about your role at tastylive.
What kind of scandal?
Just that we were really out in front there as an advocate for more young leadership in the institutions and in the government and around. And I saw some headlines from a columnist named Tony suggesting that, that it's odd that as you progress in time that you retain so much authority.
I'm going to let that go. I don't even know where you're going with that. So I've been...
You're not even going to let that one... Okay, all right.
No.
You're not going to even gratify that with a response.
You broke up a little bit, so I couldn't hear part of it. So,
okay.
Anyway, I have a topic for today.
Okay.
I was having a debate with somebody. I shouldn't say debate. I was having a conversation with someone the other day, and we started going down a rabbit hole that I thought was really interesting and would be a great topic for Truth or Skepticism today. I'm going to go, and I haven't told you, I don't know what Josh filled you in on, but I haven't, you and I haven't talked about this yet. So this is good. It's fresh. You get to come at it from whatever direction you want. Elon Musk this week came out and he said that he only has about, based on its current market cap, the current market cap of Tesla, I think it's around 7 or 800 billion. Tesla's down like $7 today, so maybe it's a little less. He only has about 12.5% of Tesla, 12.5, 13% is what he owns. And in order for him to build out robotics division and an AI division inside of Tesla, he wants the board and the shareholders to agree to dilute their shares, bring him up to 25%, and then he will build this AI division inside of Tesla. So basically, he's asking for, let's call it another $80 billion. Okay, $80 billion. And in return for that, he'll do it all inside of Tesla, and Tesla will be worth a lot more money, and everybody wins.
Yeah, I think that's a great deal for Tesla. I'm sure they went out and were like, if we wanted to do a robotics and AI startups, a la SpaceX, a la and all these other sovereigns, how much will we raise and what will we do? And we raised like $100 billion. And they discounted it 20% and took it back to Tesla and said, we'd rather do it here.
So my question to you, because I have so many issues with this personally, conceptually, fundamentally.
Why? Mission creep?
What?
You're saying mission creep from the shareholder sort of mandate? It's abuse of the shareholder in some way?
I think it's a massive shareholder abuse. I think it's blackmail. I think if I was a shareholder, I would do everything I could to say, are you out of your freaking mind? I mean, if somebody here said that to me, I would be like, why don't you go work somewhere else?
If Tony was like, I'm going to do an AI and a robotics division, but I need 25% of the IG stock.
Exactly, or whatever it is. I mean, if anybody here said that, we'd be like, you're gone. I don't even understand how. I
Right, but
don't.
he's you. He's not someone else. He's the king.
Okay.
So it's not if Tony or Dylan or Josh or some
The
fool.
problem with it is, for me, is it sets a precedent in the world of business where why can't, is this going to be the new negotiation? Give me
If
X.
you're saying if a star CEO can make a market for a startup on a new vertical, like Musk can, right? He can make a real market for an AI startup or a real market for a robotic startup that most people can't make. Real budget, real buildings,
Yep.
fire up. And then he can take that and blackmail the incumbent employer, which is your point. And the more elegant way would be to say he can offer the House the opportunity to capture that value at a 20% discount.
I don't know where you're getting your 20% discount.
I'm making it up. I'm just saying,
Okay.
I'm assuming the sales pitch, and they're probably arguing 80's cheap compared to what the market would give them.
What bothers me about the whole thing is, as a shareholder of Tesla, I would assume that and he's the founder or whatever else, I would assume that everything he does, I would already own. Like that's my gig. That's what I invested in. What if Tim Cook
That when you bought that Tesla share, new product development was your infinite opportunity as a shareholder.
Can you imagine what happens now if every
Tim Cook is like, if you want the next Apple Watch, I need more stock.
I don't know, but just imagine every innovator at every company it has an idea and basically says, before I commit this idea to, imagine it was somebody here. Hey, I'm not gonna build this piece of technology for you. I'm not gonna write this book. I'm not gonna do this show.
But they're doing your resource. They're in your building using your resources under your creative envelope.
How do you limit somebody? Where do you draw the line? How do you work for Coke, you develop a new kind of Coke, and you want to go off on your own and build it? I mean, how do you?
Can I have some insight here that I think will help you, because I think this brings forth the most significant.
Hold on. Before you do, I just want to say one other. I want to say one other thing. He is not so he's not the first person. He's not first to market with AI, or robotics. Do you know what I mean? This is not he didn't create the field. This is just like, hey, you know what? I know the
big market.
I know the pool is crowded. I'm going to jump in the pool with my own stuff, but I want $80 billion to do it.
Again, I think that 80 billion isn't meaningful unless it's in some context of whatever the scope of those projects would be, and all that. I think that the issue is this: what is Tesla stock? Is it stock in a car company or the innovations of a transportation or power company, or is it stock in the infinite possibility of Elon Musk's ability to lead and assemble clusters of engineers that work like maniacs to solve every problem known to man until they get to Mars?
All of the above, sure.
And you're saying if I own Tesla stock, I own all of that.
Of course you do.
And Elon is saying, and as said from the beginning, no, you don't. You own an electric car and power company. SpaceX is a different company, and everybody accepts that. This is a space company. And then he has this whole tunnel company. So he has a history of doing other things.
Yep.
Like, his toast factory. He's like, we'll build tunnels in Las Vegas because we'll learn things, whatever. And he's basically saying I could keep going, like Boring Company, SpaceX, and Pop Robotics, Pop AI, with the family office and now all those
Twitter,
lawyers,
everything else. Yeah.
pop it off. Or we can internalize it right here at Tesla and make Tesla the mother brand for Elon Musk. And you're saying that negotiation that's out of bounds.
Yeah. because it sets a precedent that changes that. To me, it's using leverage in an unfair. I think it's a danger to.
Theft. You think it's shareholder theft? You're stealing from the shareholders, basically.
I do.
By diluting them. You're basically diluting their interest in something.
Well, if you do that, you're
already
diluting their interest by $80 billion and 12.5% of whatever they own on the shot that maybe he can build something, maybe he can't. Who cares? He has to build it. He should have to build it anyway at Tesla. Like I said, he's not creating something new. There's no vision here. It's adding a division.
Well, I disagree with you. I think that this really brings up to the fundamental point, which is, what is Tesla's stock? Is it stock in Elon, or is it stock in transportation and power systems? And where do these other verticals reside, inside or outside of Tesla? It was a point of debate. And then his greatest skill is the assembly of pipelines of thousands of really smart young people and budgets and jobs and projects and teams to run all of these things.
And at the same time,
as process engineering.
Okay. At the expense of what? At the expense of your Tesla shares? I mean, obviously, there's going to be less time to commit to Tesla. Obviously, there's going to be.
But maybe it's going to be worth $1 trillion. It's the Elon Musk's AI. You're getting in at 80 billion. You're getting in at friends and family.
Yeah, but
the point is, you don't want to. You don't want to. The evaluation is pointless because we don't have any context.
Of course.
The point is that negotiation shouldn't exist, is your opinion, and I understand your position as a general.
In my opinion, first of all, you're paying 80 billion up front. I mean, what's the most amount of capital you could raise tomorrow if you said, Elon Musk said, I was going out to build an AI, a new AI company? I don't know, a couple $1 billion would be a lot.
For
Not
sure.
80 billion.
Again, I would have agreed.
Right.
But maybe AI and robotic. Well, agreed on that point. Robotics and AI may be worth more as part of Tesla than not, because they exist inside of that customer base. That I'm back to, it's a certainty. You put more capital faster because you have a global network to budget into.
The key there was may. There's also the other side to it where it can be such a distraction. And if there's any level of failure involved there, it could be such a distraction that it can actually kill the price. So an example I'll give you is, what's happened at Baidu or what's happened at Baba with, their new AI platforms, and the stocks have gotten killed because of the bad reviews on AI. So, or as one of the reasons stocks have gotten killed. I guess my point is that it's not even close to a layup that this is something that's going to be, essentially, free money type thing. So I don't necessarily think. First of all, I think you're basically overcharging by tens of billions of dollars, maybe 70 or 80.
8 billion on the outside. He's asking for 80.
Yeah, tops. Nobody raises $8 billion for any project. It doesn't exist. So we're billions. These are billions. These aren't millions. These are billions.
If they do for like an oil field in the Middle East.
There's something wrong with this, Dylan. This sets a very different precedence. It sets a very different situation. What if I went out to our own?
But here's where the superstar CEO, especially in the tech world, was established with Steve Jobs. You referenced him. And then was refined through lawyers and law firms and governance to allow a smaller group of people to own much less than half of the stock, 1% of the stock even, but retain total control of the governance. Class A, Class B, 3 to this, 2 of those, never ends. And Zuckerberg perfected it, where he basically had total control of Facebook as a publicly traded company. Which was in the press about it, and God knows, it must have been more than a decade ago. And then a bunch of other tech CEOs who try to become so powerful and such a celebrity that they could basically control a public balance sheet in the gajillions of dollars and have total unilateral governance authority. And I look at this like Musk in a negotiation with the Tesla shareholders and the board saying, I want to dilute all of you. And if you all take this dilution, I will be your king. And you can have all my stuff.
Where does it stop? What about 2 years from now when the next shiny little object comes along and he says, you know what, now I'm going to do this and whatever
put
this
it in the
is.
contract. If you heretofore, all contracts after this date shall be under the umbrella release.
Yeah, but obviously that's not the case. And at this point, they're not going to limit that. I mean, there's no limitation. This changes the way we all do business. Like every single person, one of the nice things about the world of finance is if you're a registered entity, you can't work for somebody else. Can't do something else. Has to be disclosed, all this kind of stuff. And I don't get it. I don't see how. I don't understand where he's coming from. I don't know how the shareholders could ever agree to that. I don't know.
He's asking you as a Tesla shareholder to accept him as the supreme leader.
I'm not a Tesla shareholder, but yes, he is.
In a negotiation against his own shareholders in his own company.
Yep.
And for you, that culturally is a betrayal of basic business ethics.
Sure. It is.
And basically evidence of bad contracts or abuse of leverage.
I don't even know if it's a bad contract because I don't even know anybody that's ever thought of that before that thought that was even something that's an option. But if it happens, it's going to change. It's going to change a lot of businesses, a lot of places where CEOs and superstars are going to say, hey, you know what? I want to do something else.
Meaning, if you want to do this factory in South America, we can do it inside of Coca-Cola, or I'll go start my own cola company in Brazil.
Yeah, I mean, listen, let's say you're LeBron James, just as an example. You're LeBron James, and you're like, you know what? I've always wanted to try tight end in football, but but pay me $100 million and I won't do it, or I'm going to go do it. I'm just saying this is what's going to happen. College kids are going to say, give me an NIL contract for this, or I'm going to go here. It's going to change everything. And that's a bad example. The LeBron example is better.
It basically assigns zero value to the organization or the shareholders and the implicit contract between shareholders and management.
Yeah. Yeah, if you are a shareholder of a publicly traded company, what is going to stop the superstars / geniuses, the reason you bought that company, from going out and establishing and building something else, as soon as they get paid? It's a difficult. It's a difficult vertical for me. I have a really hard time. I would have a really hard time as a Tesla shareholder approving this. I mean, I wouldn't approve it, and I sure hope Tesla shareholders don't.
Well, I mean, but it brings up it's sort of the entire shareholder rights domain is in decades in the past, ultimately through proxies and mutual funds. I would say one of the greatest victims of passive investing culture is shareholder rights because of the sort of indexing and proxification of all of it. And so you really have lost any of and it's empowered more and more shareholder abuse. I don't entirely agree. I think if anybody has a position to negotiate, it's Musk. And so I think it goes on. It's like when you play like Lawrence Taylor or LeBron James, come to me. But unless you have that kind of leverage, you can't even entertain these types of negotiations. I understand it's the king abusing the kingdom, basically, because only a king could enter an offer like this from anybody, whether it's the CEO or the founder.
So if you were a Tesla shareholder, would you be supportive of it?
No, but anybody who's a shareholder of any king that comes with an abusive offer is unwelcome.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I thought the whole thing was fascinating because it's
What if Elon Musk said, forget AI, forget robotics, just to have my time and attention and leadership, you have to pay me more. And this is my new compensation package, and you can do it in stock. You don't have to pay me. And it's going to cost you $80 billion over the next 10 years, $8 billion a year.
That's a different negotiation.
But it's not. It's the same. It's just a different description of the background of the negotiation, perhaps, or the future expectations.
I argue that's a different negotiation, and I'll argue that that's a different situation. But I completely understand it. At least I understand that. At least I have a chance to throw
you'd
them out.
rather come to that agreement as a comp deal for a superstar
Yes.
CEO than to authorize this blackmail, leverage, pirate project maniacs routine.
Yeah.
Even if it's the same deal.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, I thought that was really interesting. That was my favorite discussion topic for the week.
But let's say you had to launch a new tasty trade Asia. All of China, all of Australia, Japan, India.
Sure. Tasty India.
Big.
I want to own it.
It's going to be your next empire. And you should have the right to negotiate. Or should you, how does that reside in this scope, in your mind? Because you're going to want to have some interest in the success of Tasty Asia if you lead its development.
I mean, I'm always the same way. I'm all in on the company.
And so Musk is saying, I want to double down on the company.
No, he's saying he wants it for himself.
He's saying he wants to double dip.
Yeah, he's double dipping. I'm not asking for, I'm all in for the company. I'm not asking for dilution. I
see. You're like, let the structure ride.
Yeah, sure.
And know that Tasty, we've got a deal.
Yeah.
And he's saying he wants to retrade the deal with the shareholder, and that's out of bounds.
Yeah. When I invest, if I buy Tesla stock and I invest in Tesla, I'm betting that he's going to push the price of the stock higher because that's what he wants to do. And that's what I'm betting on. I'm not betting on Tesla so I can make a decision as to whether or not I'm going to fund him personally. That wasn't part of the investment. And I don't want to run the risk of the stock going lower now if he pulls out. So I'm double whammied. I'm kind of trapped like a rat.
Well, it's not that bad. So it's like Twitter, you've already been through this. Like he's conditioned his shareholders to be abused.
Yeah, but Twitter, he
took him in the tank.
Twitter's a debacle. So
back.
Yeah, but like I said, Twitter's a debacle. So he can fail too.
But he's proven that if you still own Tesla stock after this Twitter debacle.
Yep.
Right, he already got one past you using the Tesla balance sheet to buy Twitter and annihilating the equity value for at least a while.
Well, that's why he wants to do this. This makes back all of Twitter. Plus, it doubles Twitter.
Covers his Twitter. He makes the Tesla shareholders pay for the Twitter decline.
2x Twitter.
This is just a scheme from Morgan Stanley. Is that what you're telling me?
It's a total scheme to get his money back out. They lost
God. No wonder you're so animated.
That's not the only reason, but it's just, it's kind of.
But it's in there. It's in there. So, absolute power, which is held by Musk and then perhaps Bezos, insofar as they have influence over the U.S. government and the degree to which there's enforcement in general. Primarily because they control the launch of defense satellites in the private sector. So the Pentagon depends on Musk. So they do an investigation of either Musk or Bezos. They'll tolerate the investigation, but it might cause a stoppage in servicing and launch and landing and monitoring of defense satellites. which is a blackmail-based model to begin with. So I'd also think there's a context for Musk specifically to use this as a negotiating position, because it's at the ethos of both of those is defense satellite blackmail as a way to control the boundaries on excessive enforcement from things like the FCC if things get a little squirrely.
Okay. Either way,
so,
slice it up however you want. It's blackmail. However you want to do it, it's blackmail.
And so then enforcement has to be applied.
I'm not sure what that means.
Well, that's either the shareholder rejects him would be the most natural enforcement, or a rulemaker says you can't do that. You can't dilute the shareholder for debt management.
I don't know the answer.
I don't think either of those things happen.
Yeah, I don't know. That I don't know. Anyway, I just want to bring it up. I thought it was an interesting topic. I thought it was something that, could change a lot of the dynamics of what we do on every level, from entry level all the way to senior management. So that's all. It's kind of scary to me.
Yeah, I don't think you should be scared, though, because I think only a king would ever have the leverage.
Well, I don't know who's the king. Like I buy some stock, some stock I don't even know who the king is. Let's take a look here. I buy some stock in, let's say, Walmart, just as an example, and I decide I want to go out and buy Walmart, and the person that runs Walmart says, you know what, I got an idea for a drive-through, buy anything you want, blah blah blah, drive-to type thing. I was gonna take it to Walmart, but I need another 5% of the company. If not, I'm just gonna go build it on my own. We're gonna see that all the time. Then I don't like it.
Crazy. No, okay. It's catastrophic. It makes governance impossible.
Yeah.
It makes the capital structure. It basically breaches the integrity of contract law.
Exactly.
And as a result, calls into question the equity value of every publicly traded company.
If that was the case, yes.
Were this to be a widespread phenomenon.
Yes.
I think it'll be a one and done.
I think he's the only one that got the balls to pull it off, but I don't think it'll be one and done.
I don't think any. I think it'll be like it'll be a legend of an abuse from the world's richest man. Like it's rude.
Think the world's richest man is feeling the squeeze from all the money lost in Twitter? I don't think so.
I think he's going to pay. It sounds like he's got a plan to bring it to backfill on the equity side at Tesla.
All right, that's what it does. All right, what else you got for me? That was my big thing. I was saving that.
But I think that absolute power is sort of the most fascinating topic that exists, because also you don't get the performance without the absolute power. Like the very thing that terrifies you about the abuse of or anybody, me, about absolute power and leadership is also the thing that's most likely to result in success, as well as abuse. They're almost a pair.
I'm not sure I understand that.
Well, would you rather have a committee make decisions or one person one visionary, right? The Steve Jobs archetype with supreme authority over the shareholders, over the product developers.
Well, it's tough. It really depends on the situation. It really depends. I can't say.
But for sure, it's appealing when it works.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a little bit of I'm a loner like that, but whatever.
You'd like to have a single leader who has a vision and support them.
I think it's more efficient.
But you don't want to have that leader flip around when he or she has leverage and dilute you after the fact.
Exactly.
After you've been pushing them down the road.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, but also I think that it's such a threat to capitalism, it won't even matter. Like, I think this will just be a legendary abuse. What I find fascinating, moving to another topic as we move through the discussion, is the relative buoyancy in the equity markets relatively, even if they, I'm not saying that, just relative to the theoretical, that basically that there's more optimism than I would have thought at this point in the year.
I think that's fair. There's a lot more optimism. Thing to say,
but it's,
there's a lot of optimism right out there now. This has been a soft week the last 2 days, but there's a lot of optimism out there.
Even in the face of whatever horrors can be asserted.
Yeah. I agree.
Which actually is making me more optimistic.
I agree. Me too.
I'm assuming that that the expectation for some level of new level of activity is increasing. I sort of ended up wedded to the rate conversation and the real estate conversation and all the sort of traditional vectors of capital costs and all the rest of that. But I just, there's so much economic activity that exists without any, that just in the digital world. Forget NFTs, just the digital universe of economic activity is shocking in its size and its growth. Having witnessed some of this out, and so I think that it must be getting captured by so many of the media and technology companies in the publicly traded domain in a way that's less visible than the traditional measures of the economy.
I think that's fair.
I mean, I suppose the railroads would be your best evidence, and FedEx and UPS, of just clickery. But people buy things that you don't even have to ship. They buy digital assets. It's crazy. At the same time, I would rather not own the leadership of the NASDAQ. I sit in reverence, but in my mind, I'm like, how can this possibly be this good? And I feel like you have the same attitude, that you're pessimistic to the short, that the probability of a sell-off in equities still exceeds that of a rally.
Oh, I think so, but I think so.
Okay, that's what I was curious.
Yeah, I think so.
Now, but maybe not, based on the past 10 days of behavior. So. It's pretty impressive in terms of how it holds together, honestly, more than anything that I expected. But I think that ultimately you're going to have to, what is your intervention for governance, right? What would you do to govern resources other than younger people and other than unilateral authority and not, I mean, is it 3 people? Is there some formula for decision making that you think is the most shareholder respectful, democratic, functional? Leadership.
The three-headed monster is not bad. As an investor, I kind of like the one person, but just they have to be willing to answer questions and communicate, things like that. But I like
all for one is the best case if you can get everything.
I like to streamline everything, no matter what it is. I like to streamline everything.
And then three-headed monster is the backup to all for one.
Yeah.
And the issue with Elon Musk is that his all for one is a betrayal of the prior contract of
Listen, I'm a shareholder. If I'm a shareholder, yeah, it's a betrayal. I think it is.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're going to, I see what you're saying. It's just, again, it depends. I just think of the Bill Parcells when he's telling all the giants that they can't use drugs anymore in the locker room. There's a famous story where Bill Parcells took over the Giants years ago, and they were not winning, and they were having a very New York lifestyle. And he had one-on-ones with all the players and said, we're going to do testing. Have you guys sleep here? Lights out at 9:00 in the gym, all the things. And the players would ask, well, what about Lawrence Taylor? And Bill Parcells famously said to the New York Post, when you play like Lawrence Taylor, you can behave like Lawrence Taylor. And I feel like Elon will be making the Lawrence Taylor argument. And you're saying even LeBron James shouldn't be allowed. I understand your counterpoint.
A little different, but sure.
And if you're going to sort of innovate the way you use resources, I don't know. I'm not worried about the water. I think that it's an isolated. I guess I feel like it's more like of an isolated event. It won't be a maneuver that moves toward widespread adoption. To your horror.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to use the Lawrence Taylor example, my better example of Lawrence Taylor would be, listen, I'm going to play football for you on Sundays, but on Tuesdays, I'm going to fly to England to play rugby. 3-man rugby for, once a week.
Or you got to pay me.
Yeah, or, they're going to pay me $10 million a year to do that, or you got to give me an extra $8 million a year not to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you have to so you can't have a meeting.
No, that's it. I mean, it's not, I just feel strongly about that whole thing. There's nothing else. There's not another way around it.
No, I get it. You persuaded me, actually. It took you a half an hour, but you persuaded me. You would be a great shareholder rights attorney.
I don't know about that, but I feel like this is an easy one. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm going to get some people who are going to write me and tell me I'm crazy, but I feel like it's an easy one.
Well, it just goes down to the magic leader, right? And there's the era of the magic leader, which Steve Jobs created and also still exists to a certain extent. But WeWork hurt the magic leader. Theranos hurt the magic leader. Like, there were all these sort of fabulous downfalls over the last 5 years that hurt the magic leader. But I think Musk is expecting the magic leader negotiation as an exception, which I don't think is relevant to the rest of the marketplace. That's all.
I agree. It's a fascinating discussion, super interesting. I think it very much changes a lot of the game. I don't think it's a healthy change. I think it opens up too many doors with way too much complexity. I just think it sets a dangerous precedent. That's all. And I think that, it doesn't surprise. I think Musk is the only one that could ask for it and potentially even get away with it. But I don't think it works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The thing that's entirely unclear is where this ends up. In other words, I think that this is, if anything, it's just evidence of extreme authority. Like in a Teddy Roosevelt world, there would be a presidential authority to intervene against private power, whether it's defense satellites or shareholder rights. But I also think that part of the moment is that abuse, which I think is also in the political spectrum.
Yeah,
right. But
totally.
I think that the entire thing is opened in that to allow for that as a thing, and in the culture.
Yeah. So really, the reason I'm doing this is having this conversation today is because I don't want you to get any ideas.
Oh, for me to go start my brokerage? That's how I'm going to get my money. I'm going to be like, Sosnat, I need you to give me $100 million, or I'm going to start Radigan Trade.
Right, Radigan Trade.
And ready to go.
Just think about this. Where is it going to stop? If this thing gets approved, every single person is going to be like going to the board saying, I don't want an extra couple $1 million. I want, 20% of this company.
Blackmail.
Yeah, essentially. All right, that's it. That's all we have time for today, Dylan. Yeah, tough topic, but something that's like crazy interesting to me because I think it just, listen, and the craziest part about it was I read a bunch of articles on this, and for some reason, nobody was up in arms.
Well, because they've been conditioned to they've been conditioned to the abuse of the star CEO for decades. The only shareholders left at Tesla already took the ride through Twitter and came back.
The best example I can kind of give, thinking about like my own experiences, was after the Bulls won 3 championships in 1993, 1994, Michael said, I'm not going to play basketball anymore. I want to go play baseball. And it was almost like, I mean, at the time, if you just kind of go back to what Elon's doing now, Michael could have said, just I'll play basketball I'll sign another contract, play another year, but I want, $150 million for the next 3
my
years.
baseball contract that I'm not doing, and I want my basketball contract.
Otherwise, I'm going to play baseball. He didn't do that, but he just went and played baseball. But, in hindsight, he should have said, hey, you know what, I want $100 million or I'm not coming back.
And also, but Deion and Bo Jackson were famous for sort of exploiting
Yeah.
it's the extreme leverage.
Now, as a Bulls fan, I would have said, I don't care what the Bulls pay. They could pay you $150 million. It doesn't matter to me because I'm not a shareholder. But if you're a shareholder, you got to think differently.
And with the point, and you just can't have extreme. You can't let the superstars. The investment is in the payoff from the star, from the past 10 years, to make Elon Musk.
You can't negotiate with terrorists. That's what it is. You cannot negotiate with terrorists. That's essentially what it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a perfect headline.
All right, Mr. Radigan.
All right.
Very
I'll
good.
see you next. All right. Thank you, sir.
All right. Goodbye.
All right.